Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus, here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Tuesday the 6th of February 2018. Let's have a look at what's making the political news today. So to start off with, Trump and the NHS. Now, President Donald Trump has caused an online row between himself and UK officials and the Health Secretary over the NHS and his comments that he made yesterday regarding the NHS. He criticised Democrats in the US for pushing universal health care in the US, trying to push it through onto the country, and outlining the thousands of people marching in the UK because their universal care system is going broke and not working. So highlighting the protests that happened on the weekend where thousands of people marched across through Downing Street, or rather next to Downing Street, protesting about the NHS. What he didn't realise, however, was that those people weren't protesting about the concept of universal health care, which I think all of them were universally agreed on. They were protesting about the lack of funding and the austerity on the NHS, and were in fact protesting for universal health care in the sense of wanting to get more funding for hospitals and nurses and doctors. So completely the different perception there. Where did it come from? Well, it's thought that Nigel Farage on Fox News, when he did his commentary about his views on the NHS, was where Donald Trump picked up his lines about the UK healthcare system, and then he decided to tweet out. The response from the UK, well, the Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, was quick to tweet a response saying, although he might not agree with all the protesters there, no, not one of them wants to live in a system where 28 million people have no cover. A clear swipe there at the failures of the US healthcare system as opposed to the UK. That was endorsed by the UK government and indeed the Prime Minister as well, who said they fully support Jeremy Hunt's comments. And it just goes to show again the irritation between the UK and the US political relationship at the top. Next story. We're obviously talking about Brexit once again. Brexit is kicking off again this week in the context of the negotiations of Phase 2, so the future arrangements and the transition period after March 2019. Michel Barnier was in town yesterday in Downing Street meeting the Prime Minister and the Brexit Secretary, and the key line that's come out of that is he's warned of unavoidable trade barriers if the UK leaves the customs union. Now, the contrast here is between the EU's position and the UK's position. The EU's position is that if the UK leaves the customs union, there has to necessarily be borders between the UK and the EU because there is difference, a divergence in customs arrangements. The UK, on the other hand, is ambitious for a frictionless border post-Brexit, regardless of the fact that the customs union will no longer be in place, and particularly wants some kind of customs arrangement which allows them to benefit access to the customs union and this frictionless trade, but also allows the UK to pursue other trade opportunities around the world. The main thing coming out this week, or reportedly coming out this week from the Brexit War Cabinet Committee of Government, is the idea of a time-limited customs union with the EU after March 2019. There's also, this comes in the context of Theresa May being under pressure in terms of her leadership to get stronger against the hardline Brexiteers. We've got a line this morning from Anna Salisbury saying that Theresa May should get some backbone and remove hard ideological Brexiteers from the Conservative Party altogether. Now, she said that the front bench is full of about 35 hard Brexiteers, outlining Boris Johnson as good examples, and indeed in the Conservative Party, Jacob Rees-Mogg as another example. It just goes to show how much pressure Theresa May is under within her own party, as well as the country, regarding Brexit. Specifically now, we have to completely commit to one position going forwards. One more story then, a point of important day today. It is, of course, a centenary of women getting the right to vote. Now, let's just go into a little bit more detail here. This is the centenary of the 1918 Representation of the People Act. Now, what did this give? This extended the parliamentary vote to some women, not all women, some women. Women over 30, women who are graduates, and women who had ownership of a house, for example, were some of the caveats put into which women were allowed to vote in 1918. However, it soon paved the way for full universal rights to votes for all women about 10 years later. The Telegraph saying, as you can see here, there are calls for suffragettes to be pardoned for crimes they committed in the pursuit of this cause. There's a lot of events going on in London and I think across the country as well today, particularly around Westminster to mark this occasion. Theresa May is also giving a speech today. She's in Manchester. She's going for a different tone. Of course, she's highlighting the positive reflection of this centenary, but also she's going to use the occasion to highlight the amount of online abuse which is happening in the UK, particularly around politics. She was outlining that the tone of political life is deteriorating, and that social media companies in particular should do more to try and prevent the amount of abuse people are receiving. She particularly highlighted the abuse suffered by women, LGBT communities and BAME communities as well. Social media companies should publish reports showing the number of abuse complaints it gets from its users, and that is the latest policy line coming through from the government. So we'll see again what happens there with regard to the big tech giants of the world. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter right here. But from me and all the team here at Core London, have a fantastic start to your Tuesday.